if the idea of showing up on multiple social media platforms is intriguing and simultaneously super overwhelming for you, then you're going to really enjoy the conversation today. I had so much fun chatting with Sarah Weiss of On Brand by Sarah. So she's a content strategist, business mentor, and she really specializes in short form video content like TikTok and also multiple platforms and how you can really leverage those different platforms to your advantage without burnout. So we have such a good conversation around not only identifying which platforms make sense for your brand and specifically your ideal customer, where they're showing up, and so therefore where you should be showing up, but also how you can create a strategy that basically connects the dots or ties into all the different channels, including your email list, in a way that feels really organic and natural, where you're telling the same story across all the different platforms, but that content makes sense for that platform. And we talk about how to do that without burnout. So she really shares her own content repurposing strategy that feels so doable and achievable that it makes me feel like even I can do it. And I'm often resistant to creating content and specifically creating content for all the different platforms individually. It feels overwhelming to me personally. So I gleaned a lot of information, a lot of great tips from this conversation. And I hope that you do too. So let's just get right into the chat. I hope you enjoy. Hey friend, quick question for you. Are you feeling stuck with how to get your brand to stand out on Faire? I'm asking you because as a buyer myself, I can tell you that there are just so many brands out there vying for the attention of these buyers, but I know that your brand has something so special and it needs to be seen. I put together a private podcast for you that goes deeper into what buyers are really looking for on the Faire platform and how you can stand out from the crowd to grow your wholesale business and really land those dream buyers. So if this resonates with you, head to the link in the show notes for instant access. Sarah, I am so excited to have you. Thank you for coming on the Buyer Side Chat.
I am so excited to be here. You are one of my favorite humans, and we're going to spill all the tea today.
So much tea. I am just so excited to have you on. I feel like I met you. Well, I didn't meet you. I found you on Instagram, because your content's amazing. And then I was doom scrolling on TikTok over on the other app. And I was like, oh my gosh, wait, this chick looks familiar. We were talking about IVF. And I'm like, wait a second. Oh my God. And I just love, I was like, I need to reach out to her because I found you on this other platform. And I just am love all the things that you do. So this is going to be a really good conversation. This is going to be a good conversation because I feel like you're the queen of showing up in all the places, but not showing up every single day. You've mastered this. So can you, before I go down this rabbit hole, can you just introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your background and what you do now? And then I just can't wait to get into it.
Yes, I love what you said, the queen of showing up in all the places, but not showing up every single day, because that's literally so valid. And I'll get into exactly how I do that. But hello, everybody that is new to me. My name is Sarah, or On Brand by Sarah on the social media streets. And I'm a business mentor and content strategist. I used to be a speech therapist, a speech language pathologist. I would listen to business and marketing podcasts on my way to work. And I would say to myself, oh my God, I could do this. I could totally do this. And then the voice in my head turned from if I go full time with this to when I go full time with this. And I have acted as if ever since. And now we are here and running our business full time. And the queen of showing up in all the places, but not every day is so valid. I talk about a lot of my platforms how I have chronic illnesses. I have fibromyalgia and chronic migraines. And so I literally can't show up in real time every single day. But I also know that because I don't use paid ads to market my business, I need to show up. We need to show up as creators and business owners if we want people to be aware of our genius and what we do and how we help people. And so, yeah, we can talk more about how I do that, but I'm very much in multiple places all at once, just not in real time.
I love it. I mean, that's just really the dream. And I think it's something that we literally all struggle with. Like, I would love to know what your like secret sauce is. But I first want to just talk about, just generally speaking, like the importance of showing up in all the places, because I think that we've really put a lot of eggs, or when I say we, like I'm generalizing, a lot of us have really put so much effort on Instagram as being like the place, because that really was the place for a while. And I think it's hard as business owners when new things come up to know, okay, what's the right platform for me? Should I bother spending the time on that? Like, is it going to be around in a year? You know, there's always like trends that come and go. So I'd love your thoughts on just like, first of all, why we should be showing up on all the places.
Yeah, such a good question. And like, you're so right. So many people do put all of their eggs in the Instagram basket, think that they could ride on the coattails of Instagram for the success of their business forever. And that's just, it's not true. As much as I would love to tell you that it is, it's just not true. And so because I didn't come from a marketing background, I didn't come from a social media background, I found this out just like very organically. And the most simple way that I can put it is I realized that some platforms are really good for talking to your existing people. But on the other hand, you can feel like you're swimming in the pool of the same people. And some platforms are really good at getting you new people, but on the other hand, you feel like you can't really go deep with those people. Maybe they don't know like your whole MO or your offers or your services. And then I realized like, oh, also I need to get my people off of social media and onto an email list, because these platforms can go away at any day. My account can go away at any day. And so what that looks like for me is some kind of awareness platform. For you, this could look like TikTok. This could look like YouTube. This could look like blogging. Blogging and like Google SEO are definitely much longer games. So if we're going to like kind of stick to social media here, TikTok and YouTube are good awareness platforms. This looked like some kind of nurturing platform. So for me, this looks like Instagram. It's a really good place to like get into the DMs with people, be able to send voice message, be able to have clickable links in your stories. This can also look like a private Facebook group or a private Facebook page. That is not ever something that's been my MO, but I know some of you guys are killing it out there with your Facebook groups and pages. And then an email list. So I'm not talking about like getting people's lists manually and then emailing them from your Gmail. I mean, an email marketing platform, Kit, Flowdesk, MailerLite, a platform where you have the capability to categorize your people and send emails from the email marketing platform. That is, in my eyes, like the bare minimum of what you need as a creator or a business owner, right? Because you need to be able to a platform to draw new people in, especially through search. Then you need a platform to nurture them, because sometimes people can't just land on you and press buy. And then you need to get them off of social media.
I think I love that. And I think the importance of email is so huge. And everybody, I would say majority of the people listening likely have email set up, because I think as product businesses, it's like, we know we need to get you on our email list so we can sell to you. And I think that's like a little bit of like the different mindset of people that start out as creators versus product businesses that start out with product. And like, they know they have to create a website to sell. Okay. And then in order to sell, we have to have an email list. And then where it falls flat is, how do I show up on these social platforms to connect with my ideal customer and then get them on my email list? Like that, from all my conversations I've had with my clients or in groups I've done, like it's really more so like, okay, we've got the back end figured out. We have the email, we have the segmentation and automations and all that, but like, how the hell do we get people on the list? So like on the social side, for brands that are selling products, like, okay, how are they getting people on the list in a way that feels really like authentic and not super salesy? Like that's, I think, where the disconnect can often happen with product brands.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, my product-based people don't like shoot daggers through your phone screen when I say this, but I actually think that product-based businesses have the upper hand in terms of getting people onto your list. You can do this in so many ways. And I know probably some of the ways that you've been taught, which like I'm totally for this way, is like a coupon code. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In exchange for their email list. Sure. But, and I did not come up with this. I learned this from my friend Elaine Jardin, who is great at email. But I was like, what else could product-based businesses offer? And she came up with so many fun ways. The one was like, she gave the example of like a candle shop or something to do with like scents. And she was like, they can do a quiz based on like their vibe and their scent preference. And then like you can give them the answer in the quiz. And I was like, oh my God, that's so fun. Like I want to figure out what vibe my candle is. Or like you could do gift guides, or like, I feel like product-based businesses have the upper hand because you have something tangible that you can literally and physically hold in your hand. It's a little bit more difficult for service providers because we have to really paint that picture so that people can metaphorically hold it in their hands. You guys can actually show it in action. And so like, again, like, do I think that like that first coupon code in exchange for their email address is totally valid? 1,000%. My buyer behavior would be like, F yes, here's my email, give me the coupon code. But you can also have fun with it. Again, like do the quiz, do the gift guide, like so many ways to have fun with it.
Yeah. I think too, like, I think that it's a good point. And I think that it's like this feeling of, I'm tired of giving away a coupon code. But like, if that's what your customers want, then maybe you're tired of it because you've been doing it for 5, 6, 7 years. But it's like, it still is just foundational e-commerce. What I want to kind of go back to in just thinking about like the different platforms, you know, I don't know about you, but like on TikTok, like I'm not signing up for anybody's email list, but I'm engaging with a brand or I get really excited about it. So like when you're thinking about content strategy on these different platforms, what are your thoughts on just how to approach them in like platform first mindset that will help get those customers to convert to you? And maybe it goes back to like, this platform is just meant for nurturing and this platform is meant for conversion. Like maybe that's what it is. But I'm curious, like, how do you think about like an omnipresence approach without like going crazy and doing all the things?
Yeah. Can we go back to what you said first about like, I'm not signing up for anyone's email list on TikTok?
Yeah.
Okay. I am. And I'll tell you why I am. And I'll tell you the two businesses, and they're both product based that, I got my name on their email list so quickly. The one is the color changing lip oil girl, because I love my color changing lip oil. I love it so much. Yes. And I've been following her whole story and we will touch back on why that's important. And my other product-based business is, I don't know if you guys have seen her, but she has like the mental health, like sweatshirts and t-shirts.
The way I see, see the way I see?
Yes, her. And like, I'm a curvier girly, and like, obviously there are lots of other curvy girlies. And so like I went on to her live and like into her shop, and like, she was all out of her 2XLs, but like, you know, she was telling her email list when those 2XLs came back. And so I got my name onto her email list too. But the reason that I even was motivated to do that is, sure, the products are great, but a million other people can create a color changing lip oil. A million other people can create mental health sweatshirts. I love them because one, they've shared their story and continue to share their story. And two, they are live multiple times a week for their audience. And so I very much feel like I'm on FaceTime with them. I'm celebrating with them. I get so happy for them when I see them get all these orders. So I think that's something that product-based businesses lack a lot of the time is they're hiding behind the product and they're not bringing their audience along for the journey. And I think that can really make or break a product-based business. Even if your product is fantastic, even if they're on paper it's literally the best product, there's nothing wrong with it, you have the best customer experience. We need people to be aware of you. We need people to be connected to the journey in order to be like, I want my 2XL, sign up. I want my color changing lip oil in time for Christmas, sign up. And so I want you to think about, what are you doing to bring your audience along for the journey? What are you doing to make them just as excited and committed to this journey as you are? So
I love
that's
that.
my little spiel on
No.
the email list.
I love that. I love that. It's such a good point, and I'm happy that you called me out on this because it is so true. And I think that maybe it hiding behind the product is such a great way to say it. And like, it might be a little bit of tough love to hear, but so often when I'm talking to brand owners, it's like, well, I don't really know what's the story. Like, okay, I'm going to tell the story of like, okay, it's phthalate free essential oil candles and like all the properties of it. Well, like that's great, but there's like thousands. And I'm not saying this to like make you feel like you're a dime a dozen, because that's certainly not it. Your candles or your product or your sweatshirts or whatever, your lip oil might be unique in its own way, but that's not really what gets people to buy from you. It's really your story that gets people to buy from you. It's not so much like, oh, I'm buying this because it's a phthalate free, candle or your whatever, it's really like the story. And then, oh, bonus that it actually it's like non-toxic and not going to kill me when I'm burning it in my house. Like, that's the bonus on the after fact, but it's like, they like the story on the front end. Yeah. And I think what's cool about TikTok is, and that is why I wish I could think of the founder's name of that sweatshirt brand, but she shows up live. And I think that live shopping is super interesting. And I feel like assuming TikTok stays around, I'd love your thoughts on that live shopping thing. Cause like they've been doing that in Asia forever. And now I think it's become a thing on TikTok for global brands doing it. And I'm just curious your thoughts on it. Cause I feel like that's how you can like really hook people in. And like you were FaceTiming with her is what you felt like. Like how cool is that?
Yeah. So my thoughts on TikTok Shop from like the business owner side is I think that it's so smart. And if you guys are like, what is TikTok Shop? It's essentially like buying on Amazon for TikTok. So I can literally scroll onto a video of your product. There's an orange shopping cart. I can click on the product, look at the details of it, and press purchase without leaving that video. So something I talk about a lot of the time with my audience is friction. How much friction is there in between somebody discovering you, deciding it's an F yes to buy from you, and them giving you their card number to pay? The least amount of friction that we can implement for our audience, the better. And so I think it's super, super smart. Now, this episode is going to be coming out like 2 days after we find out the news of the TikTok ban, but I'm just going to give my prediction. So what we know right now, we're recording this December 10th. What we know right now is that TikTok has filed an emergency appeal. And if they decide to go forward and accept that appeal, they can't do anything yet with the app until that appeal has then been reviewed and all that jazz. My subjective take, do I think TikTok is going anywhere? No, I don't. Do business owners need to diversify their platforms, meaning getting on more than one platform? 1%. So maybe this was just like the wake up call that people needed. I don't know that TikTok is going anywhere. And I always say if it does, there's going to be another platform almost identical to it that immediately takes its place that is owned by the US. Again, subjective take, don't quote me on any of this, but back to the live shopping. Like, I think it is so smart. I think it like really takes a lot of the friction away from clicking onto a link, going to another platform, pressing purchase, then needing to go back, look at the product one more time in the video, then going back. It really cuts the friction for your audience. So I think it's so, so smart.
I want to go back to this platform conversation.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I kind of breezed over it in the beginning, and I feel like this was the perfect segue back into it because it is a wake up call. And I think that it's also like a wake up call when Instagram goes down for 24 hours and everyone's like losing their minds because they can't get on Instagram for 24 hours, although that hasn't happened in a while. But still, the point is, and you referenced this earlier, like we don't own those platforms. We can't control those platforms. I mean, we can't control Shopify or, whatever website you're hosting either. You can't really control it, but you own that data. You own your email list. Like you own those things and you don't own what happens on these platforms. So like TikTok could go away. So it is really important to think about like your total business strategy or marketing strategy rather, how do you recommend that brands identify what platforms make sense for them? Like, how do we figure out where our customers actually are and what makes sense for our brand? And then, like, how do we actually craft a strategy that makes sense without burnout?
Yeah. So I feel like if we're mainly, talking about product-based businesses here, and we are first thinking about like, okay, where are people going to become aware of us? I have a few ideas. So I feel like the quickest way to get people aware of you is through TikTok. Slower burn ways are through platforms like probably Pinterest and blogging. But let's talk about TikTok, because I think that that's probably what people have the least amount of awareness and education about, and what they might be a little scared to hop on. But think about it. If you switch your mindset to, I can't show up on TikTok. I'm not the kind of person that shows up on TikTok. I don't want to show my face. It's just another thing to add. If you switch that mindset to, oh, how lucky am I to show up on this platform that's giving me free marketing for like a minute or two, showing my product and getting new people aware of me every single time I post. When you switch your mindset to that, it becomes a no-brainer. And certainly you don't want to be swimming in the pool of the same people on Instagram, which is a good nurturing platform, because, okay, you could have repeat buyers, but for product-based businesses, it's okay to say, I want more. I want volume. It's okay to say that. Don't feel
You
guilty
have to have
about
that.
saying that.
Yeah, you have to have that. If you're not filling new people at the top of your funnel, you're just selling to the same people over and over and over again. And like on average, they buy from you maximum 2 times a year. Like I think it's like actually like 1.2 times or something. So you need new people. Like you want to love on the people that love you, but also like, hi, we need to grow here.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I want you to switch your mindset. I want you to switch your mindset and switch it from like, oh, I'm not the kind of person that does that. I can't add another thing, to how lucky am I? How lucky am I? And you guys, TikTok, like it does not require any fancy editing. It does not require any fancy sound effects or pop-up GIFs, or like, it's literally just like, come along with me. Like, okay, let's pretend you have your own like tea brand. Like, let's make people feel something, like, like come along with me on a sick day where like I'm just vegging out on the couch, and like make people feel the vibes. Like first I'm going to brew my tea, and like I'm going to put in my favorite mug, and I'm like going to make myself feel like a little bit more of a human. Then I'm going to relax on the couch and like show your product in action. And again, it literally could take 1 or 2 minutes, and then you press post. It doesn't need to be anything fancy.
I love that. It's like kind of making it a simplifying it. And also the mindset shift is so huge. It's how we view things. Like everybody has a million things on their plate. And it is a great perspective shift of like, how lucky am I that I have this opportunity to, for free, hop on here and speak to millions of people? Like 10 years ago, it was like brands were grinding it out, man. Like even maybe a little more than 10 years ago, like no Instagram. Imagine what you would do without Instagram. Imagine what you would do without TikTok. It's wild to think of how quickly we've had access to things. And so when you really put that perspective shift in play, I think that that's a pretty big game changer. I really like that. So I thank you for sharing that. Do you think when it comes down to like creating your own workflow around all of this, like how do you recommend that someone who does not have a lot of time and has been focusing all their energy on Instagram takes some of that time and splits it up to, let's say they want to be on TikTok and maybe they're not nurturing their email enough, or like, how do you start adding on new platforms without burning out? And like this tees up perfectly, like how the hell do you do it? I would love to know.
Yeah.
Because I am so impressed by you.
Thank you. So I'm going to split this up into kind of 2 legs. One, let's talk about how I get the content out there while having my chronic illnesses and low energy. And then we'll talk about my super simple repurposing strategy that is going to take you very little brain space.
Love it.
So how do I do it? How do I show up on a lot of times on video on multiple platforms every single day, but not in real time? So my whole strategy is I batch 50% of my content and I do off the cuff content the other 50% of the time. What does that mean? Batching content for me looks like during that time that I set aside, I am only pressing record. That is my highest energy task. The editing, turning on the closed captions, text on screen, I can do that cocooned in my bed. The recording is going to be my highest energy task. So say I set a date with myself to do like 30 minutes on Monday and 30 minutes on Wednesday, I'm only pressing record. My off the cuff content looks like probably today, where I've done my hair and makeup. I have a boost of energy right now. I'm going to capitalize on that. And I'm going to pull up my notes app, which is exactly where I store my content. You guys, I don't use anything fancy. I'm going to pull up my notes app. I'm going to set my camera up on my windowsill with great lighting, and I'm going to bang out content until my body says, okay, girl, you're good. You're done. And that's like my off the cuff content. When you do that, when you allow yourself batching 50%, off the cuff 50%, you are giving yourself space to have that like, ooh, like I have an off the cuff idea I want to create. I'm feeling passionate about it, but you're also setting future you up for success, be it you have low energy, you're not feeling good, you're traveling, the kids are home, something goes wrong with your shipping company. Like, you're setting future you up for success so that whatever is happening behind the scenes, and your girl has a lot going on behind the scenes, and I'm sure you do as well. Whatever is going on behind the scenes, your business still gets to run. Now, my repurposing strategy. I take the same topic and repurpose it onto, I start on TikTok, repurpose it onto IG feed, IG stories, and my email. So let's do an example. Let's say we're promoting like our calming tea. So maybe on TikTok, I would do a video about like come with me on my morning routine and let's look at my 3 non-negotiables. And maybe I'm showing my tea, my calming tea, my meditation library that I use, and I don't know, my fuzzy robe. Then I would take that same idea onto IG and I would do a B-roll with a trending audio. And all that would look like is me grabbing my tea and saying something like, can I show you my non-negotiable calming tea? Comment tea, and I'll send it right to your inbox. Then on stories, I would say, one slide would say, come with me on my morning routine. The next slide would say, like, here are 3 of my non-negotiables that have like made my mornings like super cozy. I feel really grounded. And then I would like show my tea, my meditation library, and my robe. Then I would take it on to email and say like, come with the subject line, cozy morning routine, open me. And then I would link my tea, same talking points from TikTok, link my tea, link my robe, link my meditation library. And so you're taking that same exact idea and you're stretching it. Think of like a giant Laffy Taffy. You're stretching it onto all of your different platforms, same topic. All you're doing is presenting it in a way that's native to the platforms.
You just said that in such a way where I'm like, well, duh, that's so easy. That sounds gorgeous and lovely. And it really can be that simple. I think that's what it is. We just human nature. And I think as business owners, like most of us are type A to some degree, right? Like we're overthinkers, most of us. And like we overthink things. Like it can be that simple. I think like it's really easy to take a concept and be like, I'm just going to take this exact video off of TikTok and I'm going to just put it on Instagram. But then it's like, it doesn't really work, right? Like I feel like the exact video doesn't. I mean, maybe it does. I don't know. I guess, could you talk a little bit about like when it makes sense to just remove the watermark and post it versus like creating separate content? Like, is that necessary? I don't know. I'm curious your thoughts. I'm not an expert.
Yeah, so that's it. That's a really good point and a question I get asked all the time. So I actually rotate it. I rotate talking heads and voiceovers, trending audio, talking heads, trending audio, talking heads, trending audio. So if you've done a voiceover on TikTok and you do want to try and post it on Instagram, I'm not going to sit here and say that you can't do it. But if you open up your Reels tab and you scroll through your Reels tab, you will probably see 98% trending audio videos and 2% talking videos. So we have to just objectively say, and I used to have a personal vendetta against this. I used to be the person that was like, oh, I'm not creatively fulfilled with the 7-second reels, blah, 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 blah. And then I changed it in my head to, how lucky am I that I get to post a 7 to 10-second reel and it makes people aware of my brand and business. So I started taking my same ideas from TikTok and just turning them into those trending audios. But you can absolutely try and rotate like the talking videos and trending audios. Yeah, the big thing is to just remove the watermark from TikTok. I always say repurposing from TikTok to Instagram is okay. Repurposing from any other platform to TikTok is a no-no. The algorithm is too good.
It knows. It's like it can sniff it out from a mile away. It's like, this is not built for this app. And I think like as TikTok has been around longer and it's just gained in so much popularity, like it really does not work now. It's like it definitely has wisened up and wants you to create content like in the platform for the platform and following those trends specifically. So I appreciate you sharing that because that does make it feel so much easier. I really like your content repurposing strategy, like going back to that of the 50-50, because even if you only get to that 50% that you pre-batched and like life like just hits the fan and you really don't have time to show up on the off the cuff, like you at least have content batched and ready to go. So you're still showing up and present. Do you recommend that people are like striving to post daily or multiple times a day? Like there's so many like people that have talked in the past about like you have to post 5 to 7 times a day on TikTok. And like that gives me literal heart palpitations.
Yes.
Like what are your thoughts on posting strategy for, I guess we could just stick with those 2 platforms because they're like they're the big ones.
Yeah. So my previous recommendation for TikTok was to post twice a day, Monday to Friday. But I found that burnt people out more than it helped them. And so I switched the recommendation to once a day, Monday to Friday. And like, this didn't just work with me. This has worked with my nutritionist client, my photography client, my fitness coach client, like once a day, Monday to Friday, but talking videos because that's more native to the TikTok platform. As far as Instagram, I would say anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week on the feed. Stories are going to be your bread and butter and your money maker. And so many people sleep on stories. I have an audience of 50,000 followers on TikTok, but
Congrats.
Thank you. But about 90% of my sales are closed on Instagram via stories and DMs. And so stories are a huge part of my strategy, and I post on my stories every single day, Monday to Friday. And if you go onto my stories at any given time, I'll usually have anywhere from like 6 to 10 story slides in there. But it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Like I never make my stories in Canva. I make them literally right in the app. Everything that I do, you guys, is simple. Not only do I take the friction away from my audience, but I take the friction away from me as a creator, because I know like if I set that expectation for myself that every time I needed to post a story, I needed to F around in Canva and make it look beautiful, I would never show up on stories. And I know that that's probably something really overwhelming for you of like, oh, well, it needs to be perfectly aesthetic and da 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 da. It does not. Stories are very similar to that TikTok idea of, are you bringing people along for the journey? And are you letting them see the human behind the business? I have to say that my stories that end up getting people into my DMs at first have literally nothing to do with business. They're my stories about my dogs or Dancing with the Stars or my chronic illnesses or the fact that my husband put 2 pieces of pasta back in the fridge because he didn't want to do the dishes. Like those are the stories that get people into my DMs at first. And this works because you want to be the one that's super top of mind to your people when it's time for them to purchase what you have. You want to be the no-brainer answer.
So, what about brands that are positioning themselves to become the next like household name brand, like product brand? So, where it's not so much about the founder's face. And I think like that can get a little bit tricky. Either you just don't like showing up or you're positioning your brand as like, I want it to have investors and I want to be on the shelves at Target like for years on end, like a staple product. How did they create that? What's the word? Like engagement or that connection, I think is the word, that connection with an audience through stories or just through their content strategy in general without like showing their dog or showing the personal side of things. Can you still do that? It's probably harder.
It's harder, but it's not impossible. The first two things that come to my mind are like either hiring UGC creators, like user generated content creators. So essentially having other people be the face of the brand for you, because like, I'm sorry, but like, I'm not buying from somebody that like only posts still photos of their candles on their feed. Like, it's just not going to motivate me. I'm sorry. Unless you're Bath and Body Works, like it's not happening. Another great thing is to do influencer marketing. And I know not everybody has the budget for that, but I know that some people will literally just send their stuff for free to influencers. And if your product is good, the people will use it. So don't look at it as, oh my God, I'm sending $300 of product to this influencer and they might not post. Like, look at it as like, I'm opening the door to potentially more people knowing about my brand and my business. Because again, you guys, like, if you're not going to be the face, like somebody else needs to be the face and the voice and get word about you out to the rest of the world. And a still photo is not going to do it. It's just not going to do it. I can guarantee you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think too, like that's what's working right now. And so like, depending on how you're positioning your brand, like you first have to know where you're positioning your brand. Like if you want to be that, like that level of a brand, then like that should be your strategy. If you're cool with like, I want to actually build a legitimate connection with an audience and like I feel fulfilled by that, then like go the other route. Like pick the direction that makes sense, but also like figure out what's actually working and what's trending and go down that path instead of like having resistance to it or just trying something completely off the wall and being like, well, that didn't work. Well, yeah, it didn't work because it's not trending. Right. So like thinking about it from that perspective, like people like to see people with product. Like that's like what it comes down to. So if it's not going to be you, like to your point, then UGC is fantastic and other services that like can help you do that if you don't know how to. But I feel like this has been such a good conversation to just think about how to like removing the friction, not only for the customers, but also for you is just such a great perspective.
Yeah. Like, let me give you an example. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the brand Minky Couture. They're a blanket company. Those blankets are friggin' like $80 to $150. I can probably get a very similar blanket at Sam's Club. I want that blanket because I see people like Lindsay Arnold, who's like one of my favorite pros from Dancing with the Stars, and like other influencers that like I watch every single day. Like I see them lounging with their Minky Couture blankets and I'm like, well, I need a Minky Couture blanket to lounge on the couch. Like, but I would not buy a $150 blanket if I did not see my people with them. And it's because those influencers bring us along the journey. Again, like if you don't have the budget for that, like obviously there are other ways like the UGC creators, but yeah, someone's gotta be the face.
Yeah. I mean, it's called influencing for a reason.
Yes.
Like it's literally like you would never buy a $150 blanket if you weren't influenced by your favorite Dancing with the Stars cast member who has it. And you're like, well, now I freaking need that. Like I can't watch I can't watch Dancing with the Stars and cuddle on a blanket without this blanket. Yes. So it's like, it's just, how are you influencing your people to buy is really like what it comes down to. And I know you have resources for people. You have a podcast. You have an amazing membership. Like tell people how they can come into your world because I mean, like, I'm sure you've influenced people on this call to want to work with you. So like tell people how they can find you and how they can work with you and just get in your world.
Yeah, so you can find me on TikTok or Instagram at On Brand by Sarah. And you guys, I give like free, really tangible like resources and tips in all of my content. You can listen to my podcast called The Cozy Content Corner. And then I have a membership called The Cozy Content Corner where I send out 5 talking head scripts and 5 trending audios every single week. So my members never have to worry about what to post.
I mean, that's the dream, literally. Obviously, I'm going to link everything in the show notes so people can find you and fall in love with you over on Instagram or TikTok, just like I did. So I appreciate you coming on. This was so informative and helpful, and I know it's going to really resonate with people.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're the best. Thanks so much for spending some time with me today. If you are loving the show, I would be so beyond grateful if you would rate and review the podcast and share it with one of your biz besties to help spread the word. I hope that you absolutely crush your sales this week. I'll be back to chat with you next Monday.